Have you ever felt like, the future belongs to the fast learners, but maybe you're still trying to catch up? What if learning faster wasn't about more effort, but just smarter effort? Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're really getting into accelerated learning in the AI age. Our mission here is simple: give you a shortcut to understanding how your brain actually learns. We're pulling from neuroscience, cognitive psychology, and huge potential of AI. We're going to distill all that science into a clear, actionable roadmap so you can become a more efficient, more powerful learner. Think of it like engineering your own brain. Ready to jump in? Okay, let's unpack this core idea. Learning isn't just abstract, it's physical, deeply physical. Forget that old idea that your brain's basically set once you're an adult. It's more like living clay, constantly being reshaped, not just by what you learn, but how.
That's exactly it. That's neuroplasticity. Your brain has this incredible lifelong ability to reorganize itself. I mean, literally forming new connections, rewiring old ones. That old notion of a static adult brain. Totally overturned. And what that means for you, for us, is pretty profound. Every new thing you learn, every skill, it's a tangible act of construction. Building inside your brain's architecture, it takes energy, right? And sustained strategic effort to build and reinforce these physical structures. And here's something that surprises people. Forgetting. It's not failure, it's actually necessary maintenance. Highly efficient. Your brain prunes unused connections to optimize the whole network, makes space for new stuff.
Wow. So how does that physical reshaping actually happen, like down at the microscopic level? How do those pathways get stronger?
Okay, so it happens at the synapses. These are the tiny junctions where neurons, brain cells, they talk to each other. Think of it like a handshake for information. When we learn, the communication across certain synapses gets, well, either better or worse. When connections strengthen, that's often long-term potentiation, or LTP. It's this persistent strengthening when neurons fire together a lot. It's the basis for that, saying, neurons that fire together, wire together. Well, when you practice a skill, retrieve a memory again and again, those neurons fire in sync. They reinforce their pathway. Makes future communication faster, more efficient. The memory gets stronger, easier to recall. But just as important, there's also a weakening process. Long-term depression, LTD, this is vital. It lets the brain prune away irrelevant pathways, maybe incorrect ones. It refines your neural circuits, makes the whole network more efficient, like clearing out the mental clutter.
Okay, so it's not just the strength of the connections changing. The brain can physically change in even bigger ways. Structural plasticity.
Exactly. We're talking building new roads, not just strengthening old ones. You get the formation of entirely new synapses and something called dendritic spine remodeling. These are tiny little protrusions on neurons that receive inputs, experience, learning. It can literally cause these spines to change size, shape, even number, physically altering the wiring.
And then there's functional reorganization. That sounds big. That's where the brain reallocates functions. You see this sometimes after, say, a stroke, right, where undamaged parts take over.
Yeah, dramatic cases like that show it clearly. But it happens in healthy people, too. Take the example. Someone loses a finger. The part of their sensory cortex that used to handle that finger, it doesn't just sit idle. It starts processing input from the fingers next to it, makes them more sensitive. It highlights the brain's, let's call it efficiency principle. It hates wasted resources. If a brain region loses its job, it gets repurposed. And the message for you is powerful. Want to master a skill, you need to send a strong, consistent signal that it's important. Orthoneural real estate. Inconsistent practice. Weak signal. The brain prioritizes other stuff. It really is. Use it or lose it for your gray matter.
Got it. Now, you mentioned memory. There's one area that always comes up at the hippocampus. Super crucial, right? It's the hub for forming new declarative memories. Facts, events, things you consciously learn. Yeah. And we know damage there causes, severe amnesia. Can't form new memories.
Exactly. And what's truly fascinating, just mind-blowing really, is how we overturned that old dogma about adult brains not growing new neurons. Neurogenesis, the birth of new neurons, it actually happens throughout life, especially in the hippocampus. Scientists have confirmed it. New neurons are born daily in the human hippocampus. We're talking around 700 new neurons per day, per side. Think about that. By age 60, maybe a third of the neurons in this key memory area might have been formed after you were born. Your memory forming capacity is constantly being refreshed, rebuilt.
That's incredible. It completely flips the script on having a fixed mindset, doesn't it? It means your capacity to learn isn't lost with age. It's not if you can learn, but how strategically you approach it. So older learners can absolutely learn new things. They just need to be maybe more deliberate. more strategic to drive that brain change.
Precisely. More deliberate, consistent, strategic. It's like training a muscle. The approach might need adjusting as you get older, but the capacity for growth is still there.
Okay, so that's the amazing hardware, the brain itself, but how we use it. That's about the operating system, right? The psychology, the beliefs.
Exactly. Learning involves a whole suite of interconnected mental processes, cognitive functions. These are your brain's tools. Let's touch on a few key ones quickly. Attention. That's the gateway. You need focus. Sustained, selective. It's finite, gotta guard it. Memory, the bedrock. Short-term, long-term, and working memory, that's your mental workbench for juggling info. Then executive functions, the command center. Planning, problem solving, shifting gears. Language processing, fundamental for thinking, reasoning, visual spatial processing, interpreting visual stuff, patterns, maps, diagrams, and processing speed, how quickly you take in and respond to information. Cognitive efficiency.
But not just having the tools, it's what you believe you can do with them. Which brings us to mindset. Carol Dweck's work, right? Growth versus fixed.
Absolutely. So the fixed mindset is the belief that your intelligence, your talents, they're just fixed, static, inborn. If you think like that, you might avoid challenges. Failure feels like it exposes your limits. Effort seems kind of pointless, maybe even a sign you're not naturally gifted.
Yeah, I can see how that would hold you back.
Definitely. Now, compare that to the growth mindset. That's the belief that abilities can be developed. Through dedication, effort, good strategies, people with this mindset, they embrace challenges. They see failure as feedback, information. Effort is the path to growth. And studies even show brain differences. When growth mindset students make mistakes, their brains engage deeply, trying to learn. Fixed mindset brains, they tend to just disengage. It's a huge difference in how you learn from experience.
And knowing about neuroplasticity, that your brain physically changes with effort, that directly supports a growth mindset, right? It makes so much sense. This mindset isn't just nice to have. It's like step one for any real learning method. It unlocks the potential. Okay, so mindset is the OS. What about the user interface? How do we consciously steer this ship? That's metacognition.
Metacognition and self-regulation, yeah. Metacognition is literally thinking about thinking. It's knowing yourself as a learner, knowing the task, picking strategies, and actively planning, monitoring, evaluating how it's going.
And self-regulation.
That's a bit broader. Managing your thoughts, emotions, and behaviors to reach your goals. Put them together, you get self-regulated learning, SRL. It's got cognition, metacognition, and motivation all working together. Think of the SRL cycle. You plan your approach, you monitor your progress while doing it, and you evaluate the outcome afterwards. It's not just studying hard, it's studying smart. Yeah. Being your own learning coach.
You know, it raises an interesting point. Why aren't we taught this more explicitly? We get study skills, the what, but not always the how, the metacognitive framework.
That's a great question. It's often the missing piece. That metacognitive layer is what lets you actually use those study skills effectively, tailor them, adjust when things aren't working.
And what fuels all this? Motivation.
Right.
Especially intrinsic motivation.
Absolutely. External stuff like grades works short-term, maybe, but deep, sustained learning. That comes from intrinsic motivation, learning for the sheer satisfaction, the curiosity. Research points to 3 core needs: autonomy, feeling in control, competence, feeling capable, and relatedness, feeling connected. You hear this anecdotally all the time, like on Hacker News. People learn incredible amounts on passion projects because they have that autonomy, that purpose. Learning for the joy of it is powerful.
Okay, brain capacity, mindset, motivation. Now, this is where it gets really interesting. Let's talk about what actually works. Moving beyond intuition, beyond maybe some bad habits we picked up, what does the science say are the best learning strategies?
This is crucial because as landmark reviews like Dunlowski's group in 2013, Donahue and Hattie more recently have shown, learning techniques are absolutely not created equal. They synthesized hundreds of studies. The finding: clear hierarchy. Some methods give you way more bang for your buck.
And right at the top, the heavyweight champions. The power duo, as we're calling them. Active recall and spaced repetition.
The absolute powerhouses based on evidence.
Let's break down active recall first. Practice testing is another name for it. Basically, pulling information out of your memory.
Right.
Self-quizzing, flashcards, explaining something from scratch without notes.
Exactly. And why it works so well. That active retrieval, that struggle to remember, is an incredibly potent learning event itself. Every successful recall strengthens that neural pathway we talked about. Plus, it fights the illusion of competence, feeling like you know something just because you recognize it in your notes. Recall forces you to generate it. That's true mastery. Think of it like lifting weights for your brain. The effort makes it stronger.
And implementing it sounds pretty straightforward. Digital tools like Anki, chapter questions, practice exams, even just closing the book and writing down what you remember.
Simple, but not easy necessarily. Which leads us to the second part of the duo.
Spaced repetition, distributed practice. This is the opposite of cramming, right? Spacing out study sessions over time.
Completely, no all-nighters here. It works by leveraging the spacing effect and that famous forgetting curve from Ebbinghaus. We forget stuff exponentially. Spaced repetition interrupts that curve. Each time you retrieve a memory after a delay, and ideally an increasing delay, the forgetting slows down. That effort signals to your brain, hey, this is important. It allocates more resources, strengthens storage, and retrieval.
So you can use software like Anki that schedules it for you, or simpler systems like the Lightner Box, or even just a basic schedule like the 2-3-5-7 method review after 2 days, 3 days, 5 days, etc.
Exactly. Combine it with active recall, and it's incredibly powerful. And notice what they both share. Desirable difficulties. They feel harder in the moment. Retrieval takes effort. Spacing takes planning. But that mental effort, that productive struggle, that's the signature of an effective technique. It's what triggers the neuroplasticity. It's like a serious gym session for your brain, not just a casual walk.
Okay, so recall and spacing build the foundation. What about deeper understanding? That's where the Tier 2 strategies come in.
Right. These are still really valuable, especially for conceptual depth.
Like interleaving. What's that exactly? Mixing things up.
Yeah. Instead of blocking practice like doing 20 math problems of type A, then 20 of type B, you mix them. Problem A, then B, then C, then A again. It prevents thoughtless repetition. It forces your brain each time to first identify the problem type before applying the strategy. That discrimination process builds more flexible, adaptable knowledge. You learn when to use what.
Makes sense. And the Feynman technique, named after the physicist.
Richard Feynman, yeah. Brilliant guy. Brilliant technique. It's simple, 4 steps. 1, study a concept. 2, pretend to teach it simply, like to a kid, no jargon. 3, notice where you get stuck, where it's fuzzy, where you have to use jargon. Those are your gaps. 4, go back to the source, fill those gaps, refine your explanation until it's crystal clear and simple.
Why does that work so well?
It's a practical way to do elaborative interrogation, asking why and how, and self-explanation, explaining in your own words. Forcing yourself to use simple language makes you grapple with the core ideas. Any fuzziness immediately flags where your understanding is weak. It's like a self-diagnostic.
So the hierarchy seems clear. Recall spacing for the facts, interleaving Feynman for deep understanding and application.
That's a great way to think about it. Build the base, then deepen it.
Now the warning. The things we shouldn't be doing, or at least relying on. Rereading, highlighting, summarizing.
Ah, yes. The popular but ineffective trio. They're popular because, well, they feel productive, right? They're cognitively easy. But that's the problem. They're passive. They lack that effortful retrieval, that deep processing needed to build strong memories. Highlighting can even be counterproductive sometimes, giving you a false sense of knowing without real recall. They might be okay as a first pass, maybe, but as your main strategy, they're very low utility. If you look at the evidence, the difference in effect size compared to active recall or spacing is just stark. Choose wisely where you put your effort.
Okay, so this really shifts the focus. It's not just about study techniques, but the whole system. What does this all mean for how you live your life, basically?
It means taking a holistic view. Your brain's an organ, right? Influenced by everything. Learning isn't just desk time, it's a 24-hour thing.
Starting with sleep.
Absolutely critical. Sleep isn't just rest. It's active memory consolidation. Remember the stages. Acquisition, learning, consolidation, making it stick. Recall, retrieving. Consolidation happens most powerfully during sleep. Your brain replays experiences, strengthens connections, makes memories durable.
And the timing matters. Like right after learning.
Crucial window. That's why all-nighters are so bad for learning. You basically prevent consolidation. Sleep deprivation messes up all 3 stages. Focus for acquisition, consolidation itself, and recall the next day. You're just shooting yourself in the foot.
Okay, sleep is non-negotiable. What about fuel? Nutrition.
Your brain is greedy, metabolically expensive, needs high-quality fuel. Certain nutrients are key for peak performance.
Like omega-3s for brain cell membranes, found in fatty fish, walnuts.
Yep. Critical for learning and memory. And antioxidants, berries. Dark chocolate protects from stress. B vitamins, eggs, leafy greens, crucial for neurotransmitters, fighting brain fog. Stable blood sugar from complex carbs like whole grains, beans, that helps focus. And hydration. Brain's mostly water.
Yeah.
Even mild dehydration hurts focus and memory. It all adds up.
And the body-brain connection. Exercise.
Huge connection.
Hmm.
Physical fitness boosts mental acuity. Exercise increases blood flow, obviously. But it also boosts BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor. Think of BDNF as fertilizer for the brain. Supports neurons, promotes new connections, even new neurons. Regular exercise improves memory, attention, executive functions. It's powerful stuff.
Okay, sleep, nutrition, exercise. What about the enemy? Stress.
Stress, the learning killer. A little bit acute stress can actually sharpen focus. That's the Yerkes-Dodson law. But chronic stress, sustained high cortisol, toxic. It damages the prefrontal cortex, the hippocampus, leads to brain fog, poor concentration, impaired learning. Managing stress isn't a luxury, it's essential for learning.
So things like mindfulness, making sure you get enough sleep, exercise, having a plan, they all help manage stress.
Exactly. And notice how they all interconnect. Good sleep helps stress, exercise helps sleep and stress. It can be a virtuous cycle, or, unfortunately, a vicious one if things start sliding.
And what about the actual place you learn? Your environment?
Often overlooked, but your immediate surroundings really affect focus. Key factors: minimize clutter, it's distracting, add stress, maximize natural light, better for mood, performance, ensure physical comfort, ergonomics, temperature, control noise, eliminate unpredictable sounds, and even a little novelty changing where you study sometimes can stimulate attention. It's funny how some online hacks, like reading before sleep or romanticizing your study space, are actually tapping into these basic principles.
Okay, we've got the brain, the mindset, the lifestyle. Now the big one, AI. Your AI co-pilot. This feels like a paradigm shift, not just a tool, but a meta tool for learning.
Absolutely, a game changer. One huge area is AI as a personalized tutor, even a Socratic partner. Intelligent tutoring systems, ITS, can adapt lessons to your specific needs in real time, scale personalization like never before. Think of Khan Academy's Khanmigo. It doesn't just give answers, it asks guiding questions, prompts critical thinking, supports active learning.
So practically, for you listening, this means you could use AI to supercharge things like the Feynman technique. Explain to a chatbot. Ask it to act like a 5-year-old. It could generate endless practice questions for active recall. Create examples. Automate making flashcards from your notes with tools like MindGrasp.
Precisely. The AI isn't the answer tool, it's the process tool. It removes friction. It makes implementing those effective evidence-based strategies, the desirable difficulties, much, much easier.
And beyond individual learning. In companies, for skills.
Transforming corporate training, personalized learning paths via LXPs, generative AI creating course outlines, scripts, freeing up instructors, immersive learning too, VRR simulations with AI feedback for practicing complex skills safely.
So AI doesn't replace teachers, it elevates their role, frees them up for the human stuff.
That's the idea. Mentoring, fostering curiosity, connection, things AI can't do. This leads to the ascendance of human skills. As AI handles routine stuff, skills like critical thinking, collaboration, emotional intelligence, ethical judgment, AI literacy itself, those become premium. And AI will help drive lifelong learning, suggesting personalized courses, micro-credentials, keeping skills current.
But it's not all smooth sailing. There are real ethical concerns, risks we need to talk about.
Definitely, it's a tightrope. First, data privacy. These systems collect vast amounts of your learning data. Protecting that is crucial. Then, algorithmic bias. AI trained on biased data can perpetuate unfairness, disadvantaging certain groups. Academic integrity is a big one. Cheating, yes, but also over-reliance. Letting AI do the thinking can atrophy your own critical thinking skills. And finally, the lack of human connection. AI can't replicate empathy, mentorship, and many models are black boxes, not transparent in how they work. It's a complex.
So the answer isn't banning AI. It's learning how to use it critically, ethically, responsibly. Knowing the different tools AI tutors like Khanmigo, summarizers like MindGrasp, chatbots like Copilot or Gemini, specialized tools like GitHub Copilot for coding, knowing when and how to use them effectively. Okay, as we wrap this up, the big takeaway seems to be accelerated learning isn't one magic trick. It's about owning your development, designing your own integrated system.
Exactly. We synthesized those 5 key pillars for your personal learning protocol. 1. A foundational mindset. Growth mindset plus metacognition, non-negotiable. 2. An evidence-based toolkit. Prioritize active recall, spaced repetition. Supplement with interleaving, Feynman, ditch the passive stuff. 3. A holistically optimized system. Sleep, nutrition, exercise, stress management. Treat your brain like the organ it is. 4. A strategic direction. The T-shaped skills idea, deep expertise plus broad knowledge. Learn how to direct AI, not be replaced by it. And 5. An intelligent co-pilot. Leverage AI strategically. Use it to enhance effective methods, but stay critical, stay ethical, keep thinking for yourself.
Integrate those 5 pillars, and you can build a really robust, personal, effective protocol for lifelong learning. It's how you can not just cope, but really thrive in this age of constant change.
So here's a final thought for you to take away. What one small, deliberate change will you make today to become a more accelerated learner? How will you actively direct your cognitive, physiological, and technological resources to unlock your full potential?
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive.